Hey, Aaron,
How's it going?
what do you call a musician with a college degree?
I don't know. Tell me.
The night manager at McDonald's.
I am so goddamn poor, nothing gets me up anymore. I am so old and jaded, overblown and overrated. So give me all your stuff, give me all your stuff. Everything is never enough. Give me all your stuff, give me all your stuff. Give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. I want your stuff.
Oh, welcome to the Pedalboard podcast, a podcast for all us jaded gear junkies out there in the world that are just sitting around scratching and jonesing and selling their mama's TVs for their next fix. Today, we are joined by the host with the most, Mr. Vince DeJoya of Vagabond Audio. Look at him. Look at that beautiful bastard over there with his
Love it.
golden toned skin and his very lush, thick beard.
Okay.
Nice, and his V-cut shirt.
Yeah, you like that? I
do.
can get even deeper if you want.
We got to get the deep cut V's. We've talked about this, dude. And our special guest, our brother from the north, the proprietor of Dominion Fuzz. I'm gonna take a crack at your last name, bro. Here it goes. Aaron Saborin.
Close enough, man. Close enough. Sabarin.
Saborn?
That's it.
Awesome. My last
It's
name's strange too, so it's cool. Tell our viewership as we're kind of launching into this, just the foundation of what you do, because it's very cool and it's very, very unique.
Sure. It's kind of a I don't know. It's a bit of a long story, but like it. I've always been a bit of a gear junkie, and when I was, aren't we all? When I was younger.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. And when I was younger, I was playing in my teens or whatever, I was playing in bands and stuff like that. And I guess like I always gravitated towards being resourceful with fixing things, right? Like we were the kids that would turn around and be like, why am I going to go pay $20 for this patch cable when I can make it for $5? Right? Like it can't be that hard.
No, I had to DIY
And so I started
my spirit too. I get you.
Yeah, so I'd learn how to solder a cable, and then learning how to solder a cable turns into like, making cables for a pedal board, turns into like hooking up your bandmates. At the time we had, this is going to sound antiquity, like this is going to sound old, but we had like things like rack gear and stuff like that. So how are you going to hook up your rack tuner to your amp and all that stuff? And then, so wiring that, and then, so I always kind of got really fascinated with like how things worked and how to wire stuff together and how to, eliminate noise, stuff like that. And so as I got older, one thing just kind of led to another, right? I'd start picking up pedals that were used or something like that were advertised as, hey, it doesn't work. And it turns out it's something like, a wires.
Just like a solder joint
off a
has
switch or something like that. Yeah.
Shuffled loose or something.
So you go in and you fix the solder joint, whatever, and then you turn around and flip the pedal back as a working pedal, and then that turns into, hey, if I can do this, maybe I can mod one. And so then you mod one, and hey, this is cool. I'm sure everybody has the same story. And so it kind of led from one thing to another, and then I started making pedals for myself when I could, right? So everything I've kind of learned has always been out of like sort of a DIY curiosity. It's always been, I'm sure I can figure this out. The internet is a, resourceful place. There's forums and posts talking about stuff. And there's all sorts of people who are way smarter than me who are willing to share their info. So
It's kind of
picking up information and trying stuff.
it's definitely rendering college kind of a moot point. Like, you can learn so much.
And honestly, like we say that all the time around here. We're like, we're gonna enter a world where just go learn what you want to learn on your own, right? And so all that to say, like recently, kind of at the onset of the pandemic, I've always been a junkie for Fuzz Face. I'm pretty open about the story of like why I love them, right? Like it's just everything I love about guitar. It's Hendrix, it's distortion and noise, it's like aesthetic coolness. And I've owned I don't know how many different fuzz pedals, right? Once you get the bug, you're down the
fuzz,
well.
The fuzz bug is a deep dark well.
Yeah. And so there was something to me about the round enclosure that just like it's so big and impractical, but like you just feel like Hendrix when you step on it. Like it just for whatever reason it sounds better when you use the big pedal. And so I started looking for one myself, and I wasn't about to buy an old one because, you know, the prices of them had skyrocketed. And I've been looking at, there's plenty of guys out there right now that kind of do the boutique Fuzz Face thing. And I was looking to pick one up, but they were kind of expensive or I couldn't get them up here. And so it was one of those, I knew what kind of transistors I wanted. I knew what I kind of wanted it to sound like. And I said, to hell with it. Like, I'll just make it myself. And so I was kind of watching for a transistor set to came up, I bought some. And then it was one of those, if I'm going to build one, I might as well build two, right? And then I'll sell one and try to recoup my cost. And so I built two, and then I posted one on eBay, and for what I thought was a ridiculous amount of money, I posted it for something like $400 or whatever, and it sold in an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the one that I made for myself, I was like, bye. Let's see. Like, I can always do this again. I'll just... And so I posted it for a little bit more money, and then it went again, like within the hour.
No sentimental attachments allowed.
So it was one of those moments where you're like, man, I guess I'm just onto something here. And when I look back kind of on those original ones, like I do them way different now, and I've definitely learned a bunch from them. But you know, you almost sit with a little for a little while. I was sitting with I don't know, I guess imposter syndrome a little bit, where you're kind of sitting around waiting for them to get delivered, and you're like, I'm waiting for Buddy to open it and be like, man, this sounds like shit. So like, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, well, like, there it is, like, here's the end of this. But you know, Buddy'd plug it in and say, you know, he'd message me and say, hey man, I got it, sounds wicked, like, thanks very much. And I'd say, okay, well, I guess what I'm hearing somebody else sort of resonates with somebody else. And so I don't know, one thing led to another. I decided after making two, I basically decided I'll make a run of 25. And so I bit the bullet hard, and I, you know, bought the stuff to make 25 of them. And well, like I said, here we are. I'm, you know, on to the next run of 25 now. So it's been good. It's been a learning process. It's been a gradual thing. I've learned a lot from it. And like I said, everyone's a new challenge. It's always like it's a new adventure, right? You kind of, it's really rad when someone will message you and say, I've been thinking about something that kind of has this sort of essence, right? Like I've made some where people are like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So like, how can we capture some of that Star Wars?
I saw the customizations definitely going into there. It reminded me of, I was at a Comic-Con once, and because I'm a big nerd, I'm just the hugest of nerds. So I'm at a Comic-Con, and they had an arcade machine, you know, like one of those arcades you can buy, where it had like all the games, but you could customize the shell however you wanted. And the one that they had was really cool, because I'm also a big Star Trek nerd. So it was a Borg themed like arcade machine with like the nodes like that, like shot out like electricity like in the sides, and it was just decked out Borg, said resistance is futile. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And then, you know, like that was like when I saw your Instagram page, I was instantly thought of that. I was just like, oh wow, you just kind of like go for broke whatever you want. I noticed it like call out custom stuff. The relicing looked really good on a lot of them. Custom color schemes. That's pretty neat. One of the things that I am super grateful for is one of our partners on this podcast and in our YouTube channel and stuff is a pedalboard builder himself. And it's cool because if I have an idea, I can totally just pitch it at him and it'll like totally build it. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty cool.
And he spits out some wacky shit.
It's wacky and it's very original, but it's very cool that you build like not only custom components, but also custom like cases in the style of, but not necessarily like limited to, the fuzz face. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and like some people want different things, right? Like some people like the traditional look and they want it to kind of look as close as it can to sort of an original. And then the other side is some people go up with some sort of wacky idea where they'd say, hey, I've always wanted something that maybe looks like this, or this is how I could personalize it a little bit. And I've always kind of been pretty open about like, I'm not trying to fool anybody. Like I'm not trying to make a 1-for-1 replica of an old one. Like I'm not concerned with period correct screws or anything like that. But I've always loved the look of a relic one, like one that's been beat to hell, that's been on some person's pedal board for years and years and years, and they've loved it. There's something about that aesthetic that I've always been into, and so I've always been kind of like, even if I'm doing one in sort of an original type color or something, I try to capture a little bit of that essence of something that's been well loved. And
Just gives
like
it
I said,
character.
people that pick them up will tell, yeah, like and like they're all unique, and it kind of realistically, the secret is it kind of makes it easy, right? In that like you're not so worried about the perfect finish. You can kind of just let it be whatever it's going to be, and then that's kind of what's cool about it.
I like
So do you just buy, I guess, a shitload of fuzz face enclosures and then do all the printing and everything and the relicing all yourself?
Yep. So I do everything. Like I said, it started as kind of like a COVID side hustle. I just do it in my spare time. Like I don't have a huge setup or anything. Like I'm painting them in my garage and whatever, and I buy a bunch of blank raw enclosures. The cool thing is the ones that I have are cast off an original 66. So they are effectively what like an original one would be, but then I have to hand drill them all myself. I have to sand and polish them, paint them, wear them, like hand tap all the screw holes, like everything. Like it's very much like a from scratch process.
Because they almost look like you're buying them, like you're buying vintage fuzz face enclosures and then putting the circuits in them. And I mean, they look legit. So seriously, like they're fucking awesome.
And that's a huge compliment. Like I've had so many people, and it's funny that I don't normally go super deep into the like process I use, but what I would say is that like it's kind of always changing. I'm almost like I'll try something wacky and I'll be like, wow, that came out really cool and that kind of worked. And so that'll kind of be the baseline that I have that I'm using to make them. And then I'm always making like a side one that I'm kind of messing around with. So somebody might order one and then I'll always be making a second one that I say, I'm going to try something crazy with this one. And if it doesn't come out good, I can just throw it in a bin of like acetone and just strip it and start again.
Start from scratch.
And so like yeah, and you just come across like cool techniques that just happen to work, and you're like, oh wow, like who would have thought like that one worked out cool, so maybe I'll do that again next time. And yeah, so many of them the secret is I've done so many of them like 4 or 5 times over, where I'll paint it, sort of wear it. And it's funny because I'll always look at it, and I'm super OCD about the way that it wears. So although it's random, there's a part of me that will look at it and be like, something affected about the way that this looks.
Yeah.
And I'll just,
it has to look like it's legitimate. Like,
yeah, I'll just start again. And then it's like getting over this sort of like random elements of saying like, like, is this random enough that it looks real, but it's not effective? I don't know. It's such a hard process to sort of be comfortable with, especially someone like me that, I'm wiring them inside and I'm like, oh, I want the wiring to be like really clean and perfect. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's legit, dude. I'm actually like going through your Instagram right now, and there's a couple that I really like dig here. Like the relicing is legit. It looks like it's been well thought out.
Yep.
You know, I really like the OD green Fuzz Faces that you're doing here, because my fuzz, like we all have our fuzz jam, right? We all have a fuzz pedal that is just a fuzz pedal. It's definitive of you. And this could be a multitude of things, but for me, it has been and probably always will be the bubble font green Russian Big Mum. I bought was the first like fuzz pedal I ever bought when I was a child in the 90s. I still use it today. It's just, you know, it like resonates with me. Like when you like would probably, you know, like there's a fuzz pedal you've played that just resonates with you. It might be the Dallas Arbiter Fuzz Face. You know what I mean? It's just a sound, a look, everything about it just appeals to you. And I can definitely see the love. Like that's the secret ingredient. Like when I make this certain thing where I make stuffed jalapeno poppers, but I stuff them with chicken that I cook for like 12 hours. And I double batter them and deep fry them. And every party I go to, people love them. And people are always bugging me for the secret. The secret, quite frankly, is love. It's love. Attention to detail. You know, really wanting to make every batch or every next one the best one you have made. You know what I mean? Like it's, and I see
honestly,
that
man,
drive.
I don't think you could say it. I don't think you could say it any better than that. Like I'm not gonna. It's weird because I'm the kind of person that always tries to remain humble. Like I don't want to put myself on a pedestal, but to me, it's about like aspiring to be like a master chef, right? Like anybody can put, you know, mac and cheese together and make a mac and cheese dish, but if you went to a spot that's specialized in it, it could just be plain old mac and cheese, and you would be like, man, like what is the secret ingredient in this guy's stuff? Right, we've all been there. We've all found the one thing that just sort of hits the spot, right? And to me, it's kind of about always trying to find those little nuances that I'm sure that people either don't notice or it's only things that I pay attention to. But it's really about like you're always refining your process, right? You're always like, I put a dab of salt in it this time, like was that too much or too little? Like how do I continuously sort of tweak the recipe to find the thing that works right?
No, I love like the Axis face. Those are really cool. The Axis of love kind of thing going on. And then just the straight up red ones, that like Dakota red. Like
yeah, that's the one I'm going for.
Yeah, we're junkies. We are the junkiest of junkies. Like we're both going
it's it's funny, some of the original style colors are like the most difficult to do. So I was talking to somebody recently where one of my favorite color schemes is like the silver and the black. And you'd think that it would be so simple. Like you think you would just hit it with silver paint, you'd put the black lettering on it and you're good. But like some of those old ones, and to make them look right, there's so many like nuances between the way like the color hits, right? Like it's either too dark, too light. There's so many little details that like I feel if you scrolled through my feed, I do it sometimes, I go back to the beginning and I'll sort of look at stuff that I was doing early on, and I'll kind of be saying like it's funny to see how you could almost see my thought process sort of change and my like aesthetic, just the way that I notice the aesthetics in the old ones. I'm the guy that sits there and is just always looking through, you know, Google Images at like pictures of old ones and saving them in this repository where and that's where I often get ideas to do a new one, where I'll sit there and I'll be looking at pictures of an old one that I'll be like, oh my god, like this old one is so rad, like whoever has that one is so lucky. And then I'll try to say, how can I kind of get the essence of whatever that one is in one that I build? And so I'll take a crack at it,
it's
and then
super
we'll
tough.
see how good I do.
I used to build guitars, and one of the things I would do is I would relic set guitars, and they had a lot of different ways to go about it, as you do probably. It's always the learning process, and you're experimenting, you know, with like acid, you're experimenting with like steel wool, and you know, like a hammer, and you know, like just whatever you kind of come up with that works, right? And I remember, I mean, I ended up using making something pretty cool. I always called it ebonizer, where I would take white vinegar and I would take really fine mesh steel wool and I would shred it until it's just powder.
And it turns to that like black gunk, right?
It turns gray in there, but the second you
Yeah.
expose it to oxygen, it just begins to oxidize, right? So then it turns brown, and then as soon as you put it on wood, it looks like old wood. Like it just instantaneously looks like dried out, crappy old wood. You know, I did that.
Yeah.
I tried it with paint. It didn't work out so good. Where I was gonna put some fine mesh steel wool in the paint after I had like just pounded it in like a mortar and pestle, just into dust, and then mixed the paint, hoping that it would oxidize a red to give it that more vintage hue. It was a bad call. It didn't work at all. It was a wild, bold move, and I had free time. So, but yeah, that's.
It's funny though. Like, I'll tell you that like, there's a particular like, there's an era of Fuzz Face between 68, 69, right? Kind of as they transition over to Dallas Arbiter and they transition over to Silicon, where you see them pop up every now and then, and everyone from that era, I don't know what the deal was when they painted the enclosures. They must have been sitting in like dusty boxes or something like that, because when you see them all now, every one of them, the paint is like flaking off of them. In that it's not like it had been banged around necessarily, but it's like the paint didn't really bond well to the case, and so it's kind of got this flake thing going on. And like if I could ever own like a real one, it would be one of those. Just because I love the way it looks. I think it has so much character, and like in the work that I do, I'm kind of always chasing like that particular look. It's about the like paint that's kind of just flaked off after years of use. It's not so much that it's been scratched or banged so much as it's just, you know, like an old barn with paint on the side where
or
it's
like
crackling and
moisture
it's
has
just coming
built
off.
up between the steel enclosure and the paint.
Yeah.
Creating the paint to peel off. But I get what you're saying about like color matching, because not only are you trying to match a color that is no longer produced, more than likely, you're not only trying to do that, but you're also trying to produce that to look 50 to 60 years old and well loved. It's a challenge unto itself.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it, like with the relicing, is that's why I love Relic guitars, is that it gives them a sense of character, but in a way, whether it's artificial or not, for me, it kind of tells a story. Like that guitar looks like it's been well loved. It looks like it's been through the shit. And I personally love that. And even with pedals like this, like you don't see it very often, but with Fuzz Faces too, the relicing look to it is, it just, there's something about it, like you were saying, it's awesome looking.
Of course, the flip side of that,
To me, it just hits
Yep.
the period. Like to me, it just hits right in something that's supposed to be old. It's funny, I'll tell you a story about like Relic guitars. Like I'm a Relic guitar guy, and I totally respect people that aren't, right? Like I feel like it's
those
very
guys.
divided.
It's fine.
but
But
I was
like
gonna say, like,
honestly, I swear that it stems from like years ago when I was playing in my band. I had like a 1979 Gibson Artie Artist. So like the funky, it almost kind of looked like a Firebird one, and it was mint from the year. And I was so obsessed about like, you know, keeping it in pristine condition. It was this old guitar that was mine, and my band at the time had like a CD release show or whatever, and we went to go start to play the show, and in the first song of the first set, I mean, I was wild and throwing it all over the place, whatever, and I slipped on some beer or something that was on the ground, and I fell, and my guitar literally just scraped along the corner of a table and put this huge gash like right across the front of it. And I swear that was the start of it, because from that moment forward, I was just kind of like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Right? Like the damage is done.
Yep.
And I just kind of fell into this, like, I've had multiple different guitars over the years, and I've had a multiple like PRS guitars, and I feel like I always sell them because they're almost like too like wall
Too
piece
new.
art.
Yeah.
that like I'm scared to do anything with them, but I don't want to like beat it up because I'm going to destroy the value, as opposed to like my Stratocaster that looks like it's seen a war. It just right, like it just, you just don't care.
There are certain guitars like PRS especially, like they're not Relic type guitars. Like even if they were to be, like it just doesn't look right. Like you said, it's more of a almost like an art piece. Like you tuck it in the corner, it's there, you admire it, you don't touch it. But something like a Les Paul, a Tele, a Strat, something like that, you can beat to hell and it's great.
Let me retort here, maybe a slightly opposing.
Oh God, let's go.
Okay, so there's a part of me that loves the patina of, you know, like stuff like this, especially with pedals. When somebody takes a pedal and takes it to a whole other realm, or does something really cool or unique, I'm interested. Okay, you flip that over to guitars, not so much. I don't know why, but I kind of feel like it's stolen valor. You know, just a little bit.
Yeah, I hear it.
I have a lot of guitars, and I have like a pile of dead touring guitars from when I toured. I used to buy white Les Pauls from like the white Les Paul Studios from like the late 80s and early 90s. And I killed them with great proficiency. But like they look like I have one that's being framed, like the main one that I love the most, that cannot be repaired anymore because I broke the neck on it 3 times. It's going to be like framed, and it's going to be, you know, it's going to sit in glory in my studio. I don't know, man. I just can't like get into like the Relic guitars because maybe it's because my sweat is like alien blood acid, so I like eats tops. I have a Les Paul that I bought 3 years ago. It's already got like the marred out like bridge now. The top's starting to fade. You know, like as far as like the finish is getting worn off, the finish is coming off the neck. Of course, I play a lot, and I play like live a lot, but I don't know, man. It's like but once again, I can like appreciate that you guys like something without like it doesn't threaten the fact that maybe I'm not that into it.
But think about it, so like you and I are very big on the aesthetic of things, you know, so I see especially pedals. And for me, like something about looking at a vintage Stratocaster that's been beat to hell makes like I'm rock hard. Like
it's false advertising.
It is to an extent, yes, it is. And I understand what you're saying about the stolen valor. I get it. But the aesthetic to me is just as important as playability.
That's fair.
To a degree.
I'll concede that point. That point because it's the same for me.
Yeah. And if I am playing something that I love looking at, I'm just going to dig into it more and play it.
That's like the 12-year-old in all of us. You know what I mean? If you love to look at it,
yep, it's
going to definitely have, you know, a psychological effect on your, you know, wanting to never like put it down. I totally get that. I sold guitars for a long time, and that was definitely part of it. You know, you see a kid and he like looks up at this guitar, it just latches on like that's the one. There is no other. Don't sway him from that. You know, maybe it's a bad call. Like it's got a Floyd Rose, and you don't know how to use that. And if it breaks the string, jig is up, man. You know, like dude, that's it. You're gonna have to bring it to me and pay me money to like fix it for you. But yeah, no, I get it. I can, like I said, I can definitely cool with it on pedals, not so cool with it on guitars or amps.
See, and I've never been one to like go out of my way to like relic a pedal or anything, but like the old Boss pedals or, you know, Fuzz Face, it's just they look awesome beat to hell. You know,
that's fair. I agree. I completely agree with that point. I don't know. It's just like I can't define it. It's just like a deep personal thing. You know what I mean? Like,
well, you're wrong. So
I get you can be and are wrong. You feel free to weigh in here, Aaron. Sometimes we bicker about silly shit.
So it's funny though, like because like don't get me wrong, my favorite examples of like I'm a Stratocaster guy. I do love like a gold top P90 Les Paul too, though. But my favorite example of them are always the real ones, right? Where you know this guy's a real player and he's beat the living hell out of his guitar, and you can see the photos of it from when it was like new to now. Like those are the ones that you're just like, oh my god, like, and like if I could ever someday buy like a real Strat, like I would want a player's like 66 or something like that. That's just been beat to hell as long as it's playable, right? There's something about that like honest wear that
Oh
says
no,
it's
it's
probably a
magic.
good one.
It's magic.
Um,
I've had the opportunity to play a few pretty rad guitars. Just a couple of, no, this is not a flex or anything. I'm just agreeing with you. But like my a friend of my father's has a 57 Stratocaster, like a legit 57 Stratocaster with the bass, the Louisville Slugger neck, and all the trimmings. And the only thing he's done to it, he still has the original Bakelite pickguard stored, but he did replace the original Bakelite pickguard with a more modern pickguard just so it wouldn't crumble. And he's done nothing other than that to it. I mean, it's the same electronics, everything's the same. I think he might have copper taped the back of the pickguard, just to help.
yeah, sure.
We've discussed this a lot of times. Like Strats are great tools; they have a very specific purpose, but there is some bullshit associated with Stratocasters. Just like
Oh
there's
man,
some
are you kidding me? There's tons of it.
yeah, there's tons of bullshit associated with the Les Paul too. I mean, so like it's just every guitar has its strengths, has its weaknesses. But it looked great. I mean, it was a sunburst, like the 3-color sunburst. And it was amazing looking. The wood had like the gray spots and the spots on the fretboard.
Yeah.
I can only get so hard.
It didn't. No, dude, we even got there yet. And then I got to play a no-caster, which also had the same kind of stuff. It was just great. An old Birdland that had been played pretty hard. Gibson Birdland. I have an old Strat that's Dakota Red, which is my favorite Fender color from olden times, is Dakota Red. Or Daphne Blue, it's another good one. I take that too. Anything Oxblood, I'll take that as well. Like these colors. But I have an old Strat like that looks bomb. Plays like garbage. I'm not gonna lie, it does not play well. But if I were gonna do anything to it to make it play good, it would devalue the crap out of it. And it's one of those things where, once again, where you kind of have the same feelings like about a Paul Reed Smith, is there's like, you don't want to go wrecking it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the guitar that you feel like. I like to feel like a guitar is a tool when I'm playing it. That it's a tool that I'm using to serve a function. Now, if it's a really nice tool, I mean, that's cool, but I don't want to be afraid to mar it. You know what I mean? So that's the reason I gave up on vintage gear. I gave up on, like procuring that stuff. And I will venture to say that like Relic stuff is a great way to kind of have that vibe without, like having the value attached to it that's going to make you like be like hyper paranoid that somebody's going to walk out the back of the club with it, you know what I mean? Or just you might scratch it and then you're just going to be, like that's 20 grand gone, you know what I mean? So
Hey man, put it this way, I would love to earn the Relic wear on my guitar, but I think the reality of it is that like I just don't get the time nor the venue or anything to actually play hard enough to ever get there.
And you can't do it with modern
so
guitars.
For me, that's the closest.
with the
Oh
poly
no, and
finish,
like even
yeah,
if
there's
I
no way.
no, and even if I got an old one, like the amount of playtime to really like beat the hell out of it in that sort of natural way, like I'm being real with myself. Like I don't think I'm gonna practice that much.
Yep.
I don't think it doesn't have like what I think as I've discovered, because my guitars get relicked really fast, and one of the reasons it does is not like this. I do play them a lot. I am not abusive, but I'm not exactly kind either. You know what I mean? Like if it's for the show, then it's for the show. I don't like smash them or anything because I play like Gibsons and like nice American Fenders and stuff. But like what it has to do with me, the reason my guitars wear so fast is my body pH is really acidic. It's really acidic, so it eats through finish. It eats through frets. My main touring guitar for a long time, before I switched to Les Pauls, was a Fender Jagstang, like a Daphne Blue Fender Jagstang from the 90s. Still have it, love that guitar, but It didn't
Is
age.
it green now?
No. Weirdly enough, it did not age. But I have had to refret it and replace the hardware. Like I've refretted it 3 times. And the last time I put stainless steel on it, so it's done. Like I don't ever have to do that again. But like the hardware would wear out, the switches would break, pickups would wear out because of my sweat. But because it was a poly finish and not like a nitro finish looks fine. I mean, they put like a million layers of thick poly on there. And so that's why with modern guitars, you're not going to see the relicing as much, even with acid sweat, because it's just not going to affect the poly. But if you put it on nitrocellulose finish, it's going to eat through it like a bunch of carpenter ants. My Les Paul's already got spots, and the top is starting to like the poly, the nitro's coming off the top. It's going to look awesome in about 2 years.
Yeah.
I play it all the time. It's a black back too. It's really good. It's super good.
And I don't know, it's annoying. I understand it obviously, but it's annoying that to be able to put that honest wear on it and make it your own, you have to buy a vintage guitar. And obviously you're going to put the money into it, and it's going to take years and years and years of playability to get it that way. But even, you know, like you were saying earlier, if you buy a guitar that's been honestly worn, it has a story to it. And for me, I don't care if it's my story. It's that guitar still has a story to be told, as cheesy as that may sound. So
No, man, I agree.
Well, it's got
You're
DNA.
the like steward of that story as it moves forward.
It's got DNA now.
Like
you know what I mean?
get to
Like,
write the next chapter.
Yep.
now I've got one guitar that I have a 64 Lake Placid Blue Jaguar with the matching headstock. I got it in a horse trade before the prices jumped on this stuff. I mean, now the prices are insane on this stuff, but I got this back when. And I was going to keep it like pristine. It's not pristine, you know, it's kind of rallied and played, but I kind of just gave myself liberty with that guitar. So I've got some replacement wire, like period correct. I'm going to rewire it, but with period correct wire, you know, to make it like playable. The frets are in good shape, so I got a workbench. I've been slowly but surely like dressing the frets out real nice, real slow and careful, because it's got a lot of, this guitar has been played and it was well loved, and you can tell by looking at it. I mean, there's spots where that blue is turned green, you know, like that Lake Placid blue has completely turned green.
That's the best one.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm just slowly but surely, the pickups still are great. They're not like microphonic or anything, so I'm just very carefully. I want to play it. I want to play it for reals. And because it has been rallied, I'm giving myself license. I wasn't going to keep it as like an investment guitar, but I just made the determination that it's just like, I'm going to play this thing, dude. This is a cool guitar. I love Jaguars. I like the short scale Fenders a lot. And this is like the ultimate short scale Fender guitar. So I gave myself license, sitting on my bench right now, slowly but surely, meticulously being restored. At least to playability. I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to rally that thing until the kingdom come.
See, but like then you're jumping on the bandwagon. It probably looks rad.
Oh, it
That's
does
the
look
point.
rad. It
looks
does look
wicked when it's
rad.
beat up.
But I have an old Strat that's like super clean, and I don't want to play it or touch it because it doesn't play well, because it's old and it has not been like, it's been kind of closeted its whole life.
None of them play well though. That's the point. I don't know. I've always grown up with the like, you have to fight a Strat, like you have to wrangle it into submission.
No, it's particularly
that's part
bad,
of it.
though. No, I get that the Stratocaster's a fist fight, and like Telecaster's even more of a fist fight. But it's way bad. like you know, the frets are not great. There's a lot of things that are not great about it, but the second you refret it, you devalue it horribly.
Yeah.
And I just want to kind of look at it. I got lots of guitars. I'm just gonna, when my kid needs to go to college or something, maybe I'll sell it or something. Dude, probably pay for it at that point. People are crazy. So like, what's the, like, I got a question for you. What is the wildest like customization of a fuzz face that you have done to date?
So like, I mean, I've saved it for the sort of the shill that we're supposed to give at the end of this.
Oh, okay. You're talking about
Yeah.
the Well, we'll do the sound toy.
We
Sound
can-
toy.
yeah.
Let's do it now.
Paddle time, do 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 do. Paddle time, brought from me to you.
That's great. That great segue.
Let's do it right now. So I'll get it. So I'll talk about it. So here it is. So it's called the Axis face.
Yeah.
It's
saw
just
that,
it's just a
yeah.
fuzz face. And so my idea behind it says Dominion bold is love. And so the
that's
idea
cool.
behind it was, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, how am I gonna write like a love letter to like fuzz face lovers and Hendrix lovers and
All in the same time.
you know, just all these things that like, you know, we all gravitate towards as like there's a type of player that just loves all this stuff. And so I was thinking, I was like, what's my favorite Hendrix album? It's Axis. And so I was like, how do I sort of integrate that into this? And so I basically decided that I could try to find a way to like do the sun rays and sort of, and it's been an interesting process. I think I redid this one maybe a dozen times, where I would, you know, 12 layers of paint and tape it off and then look at it and be like, nah, it's just not, like I've got this vision in my mind and it's not living up to what I want it to be. And so like in the bin, start again. And then, you know, I've changed the way that it sort of looked a bunch of times. And so ended up with this. And like the idea behind it is it's nothing like, I tried messing around with different circuits to go in it. I know I was talking to some people and they're like, it's called an Axis face. You should throw the Roger Mayer like Axis fuzz circuit in there. I tried, like I messed around with the circuit and I like, for whatever reason, it didn't resonate with me. And so I was kind of like, it's pretty hard for me to make something that I don't really dig and then turn around and like offer it up to somebody. I just don't think that that's honest. It kind of doesn't sit with me. So, you know, I looked around and I sourced out some really cool old NKT transistors. It sort of just made what I thought was sort of a fuzz face circuit with some really cool old parts that really kind of captures. I'm not going after any era of Hendrix in particular, but it kind of really does a lot of that, like, you know, everything from Experience up and through to Band of Gypsies. And so for somebody like it's gonna go up for sale this week. And so for somebody that really kind of loves Hendrix and loves fuzz and wants a cool collector's piece that kind of does the thing, right? It does the cleanup, it does the distortion, it does everything. I don't know, somebody's gonna really love this thing, right? As the kind of showcase one of one rad piece. And so that was kind of, and I was using it as a bit of a tool to kind of showcase. I did it after I made the first run of 25 pedals that I had bought cases for and decided like, I'm going to make a thing out of this. Like I'm going to give it a name and I'm going to like try it as a little bit of a sort of hobby venture type thing. And my intention was to try to showcase different like techniques, like different paints, different wear styles, different, you know, wiring styles and transistors and whatever else. How can I incorporate as much as I've learned in the last like 25 fuzzes that I've done into like one piece to kind of show like, this is everything I've done to date. And then I'm going to move forward from here. And maybe, who knows, at the end of the next 25, maybe I'll do another one that's kind of, you know, outlandish and special.
No, that's very, very cool. I was checking that one out on your Instagram. If you guys want to check that out, it's at Dominion Fuzz on Instagram. You can't miss it. No, seriously, just look for the fuzz face. You'll see. All right, Vince, you're up. What's your sound toy of the week?
I guess kind of staying true to what we're doing.
He jumped ship on whatever he was going to do before, and now he's changed course.
No, it's just pure coincidence, oddly enough. But the Keeley fuzz bender.
Sick.
Basically an old tone bender with like an active EQ on it. But it sounds fucking awesome. Like there are very few fuzzes nowadays that I can really fall in love with, and this has been one of them.
Oh, okay, that was brief. This is that, and no.
This is my thing. Now you go.
So I can jump in there quick with just talking about tone benders. Like I'm friends with a couple like local or with a couple different builders like that I've met through Instagram and stuff that do a lot of rad things. And I was talking to one of them recently where he was like, "Man, like have you ventured into tone bender yet?" And I was kind of like, no. I mean, there's some artists that I look up. Like I'm a huge Dole Bramhall fan, so like that's a whole other world. And I've kind of dabbled in different ones. And he was like, "Oh man, once you like get the itch, right, you're going to be in deep trouble because you're going to start like it's kind of the next level of add that extra transistor and you're deliberately finding parts that are like out of tolerance because the ones that are out of tolerance are the ones that sound the best." And like I kind of do that in my own builds. I'm always kind of looking for ones that are almost wrong on purpose, because I swear some of the old ones that you plug in an old one, you're like, this one sounds fucking awesome. I swear 9 times out of 10 it's because everything's so off kilter that it's this magical soup that's come together, and that's why it sounds so special. So it's like, how do you deliberately recreate that? There's this video on YouTube, I swear anybody listening, go find it. It's like Anthony Macari sitting in this room and they're showcasing like original tone benders. And once you watch that video, like I sat there and watched it and was like, bookmark, I'm in trouble. Like I'm gonna be watching this like time and time and time again. Like it's dangerous.
I know. I would give a kidney to have an original tone bender. Like it's one of my favorite fuzzes, and I know like it's kind of become a bandwagon fuzz over the last like year or two, but I absolutely love them.
What's
I
your
fully
blood type?
We'll talk about it later. Don't worry.
My sound toy of the week comes with a little bit of story. Once again, I was talking about Brandon Schock, who's a co-host on this podcast. He also works with us on our channel and we make videos, and he builds pedals. He does shock rock effects. I get to be a lot of times I get to be the guinea pig for his designs, which I couldn't be happier to be the guinea pig. But sometimes he just has weird, crazy stuff that he's built, and he's always having me try pedals. Like we hang out at least once a week, and he just hands me pedals, and we play around with pedals because that's what we do. Like that's how we hang out.
Grown men and their toys.
He had one that I played, and he's like, "Yeah, this one, I'm not building any more of these. So, this is mine. Try it out, but don't get your heart seen." I'm like, "Why are you showing it to me?" I got really indignant. I'm like, "Don't show me things I can't have. It's to some degree. That's just being mean, dude." But anyways, he happened to have another enclosure lying around, and he made this for me. This is number 4 of 5, I believe, that were made, in no particular order, as he works. But this is, speaking of, this is the Red Fuzz by Shock Rock Effects. This is pretty much a authentic recreation of a Crimson Big Muff. This is a visceral beast. It glows in the dark, as do a lot of Brandon's pedals.
To say that artwork is very much shock rock.
This is hand painted. Like this is not like there's no like stenciling or anything, transfers. This is hand painted. But he made me this, and it's my favorite fuzz. Even more so than my Green Russian Big Muffs. This thing is just a wall. As soon as I played it, I was literally like, "By God, man, you have just given me, at least for me, you have given me the best sounding fuzz pedal I have ever played. Like, what do I got to do to get you to build me one of these?" Like, dude, whose kidney? How many kidneys do you want from Vince? I don't know. I don't think
off my fucking kidneys. It's fine.
I think your kidneys are too small for Brandon because Brandon's bigger than I am. But I'm pretty big. But like it's I love the vintage tone bender style.
Yeah.
See, and I feel like if you're gonna build an authentic recreation, doing it in the older enclosures is more of an authentic feel. Like nowadays they'll put them in just the regular standard enclosures, and it bothers me. Like when I see the independent fuzz builders on Instagram, they build old tone benders and they were in the original enclosures. That makes me way more excited about it than just a, you know, another tone bender clone today.
I think it was Tate Effects even did a rat clone
Oh yeah.
in a
Yep.
tone bender enclosure. They
Mhm.
call it like the big rat or something like that.
Yep.
I don't know. I like the off kilter. I like the off kilter old school enclosures for stuff. Like think of like a Shin Univibe. You know that thing is huge.
Massive,
You
yeah.
know it's massive. Some of the best, like the green Russian Big Muff, the one that I favor, is huge. It's like cast iron. You could like kill a man with it without a lot of effort. You know, it's made of like tank crap. You know, like, and then
It's fun.
go ahead, dude.
It's funny though, like to me, like it's just, it adds character. Like it's something extra special and that it's unique, right? Like I went through this big purge years ago where like I was that guy that had 35 pedals, right? And like I was so concerned about having them all just like squeezed together on a pedal board with a switcher and like some massive power supply, and you've got like 8 overdrives and stuff. And it's funny, I've been having conversations with some friends of mine where I've been trying to almost like act as an interventionist, where I'm like, you need to just get rid of it. And because like the reason I did was I found myself practicing, and instead of saying, I don't know, I need a boost or some distortion for this spot, I had so many things on the board that I was almost like looking for an excuse to use a pedal that was sitting there. Like, hey, I've invested in this pedal and it's sitting there, so like how do I use it, as opposed to just kind of finding my own sound and then using whatever needs to be used. So like I've recently downsized my pedal board. Anybody can go look through my Instagram page and you'll see it. There's only like 4 or 5 pedals on there, and they're literally just, what is it that I have to have that I love, right? And so to me, it's like there needs to be a fuzz. It's the staple. I need to have it. And if I'm going to have a fuzz, I want the face. Give me the big enclosure. It's got to be there. I need to have some sort of like tube screamer, just so like so many of my heroes, right? Like use that pedal. I'm a Strat Fender type guy. It just works. That's going to be the overdrive, right? Like I don't need, like there's so many amazing things out there that it's so easy to just see the next thing and try it. But like really, like it's an overdrive. Like it just, they all do the same thing. Just find the one that works and make it yours. I have a Univibe. I have to have a Univibe. That's my modulation. And so like I feel like the aesthetic of it's cool to see it coming back now. You're seeing more and more kind of like big old school type aesthetics coming back. And I think like that kind of goes a little bit hand in hand with people maybe finding a little bit of themselves. Like I can go to a gig and bring the one fuzz face and throw it on the floor and work the volume knob on my guitar and sort of just make it do everything. And so like, hey, you won't lose it, right? Like
I did several years where I played in a 2-piece band, and I would use a Silvertone 1448 guitar, one of them little short scale guys, those Masonite. Basically, it's like 2 pieces of chalkboard over a piece of poplar with a 2x4 neck.
Yeah.
And then I would use like I ended up getting my hands on some prototypes of the Fender Pro Junior with a little 10-inch speaker in it and a big muff. That was it. Like go on stage, like, and it was great. I had like the coily cable, you know, and I would just have that thing sitting like right by the mic stand, and I just stomp on it whenever I wanted to make some ruckus or roll it off, you know, clearing it off. You know, I had that amp wide open. So if I wanted to clean it up, I'd roll the volume down a touch and it'd clean the amp up. But man, the glory of that, and just not having to worry about shit, because I'm in a 2-piece band. Who the fuck do I have to tune to? You know, like, like as long as the guitar's in tune with itself, that's close enough. It's close enough for blues. You know, like, it was amazing. It was thrilling and liberating. All of that.
I've definitely hit that point more recently, because I used to have, you know, a massive pedal board with, you know, 18 pedals on it, and I forced myself to scale back more, because I was like, I'm not using everything here and I'm lugging this thing around for no reason. So like you said, let me put up what I need on there, what I know I can use, and just get rid of the rest, or throw them up on the shelf. But
I think I have like 8.
Yeah, it's hard.
pedals.
It's hard to do, man. It's hard to like get rid of
Yep.
stuff. And it's funny. I find myself playing the voice of reason to like friends of mine, where they'll be like, "Oh, hey man, like I've recently downsized. I got rid of this, 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 and this, and I've kept." And they'll mention like 4 fuzz pedals, and I'll be the first person as somebody that makes fuzzes and be like, but aren't they all kind of the same? Like, which is the one? And I get that like different days you like different ones.
Yeah.
So like,
Yep.
I'm gonna give you permission to like keep 2, right? Like, can you tell me that all 4 of them don't kind of cross over into similar territory, right? Like, I
We don't
feel like
wanna
I've
hear that,
swung,
though.
like the pendulum on my end has swung farther to the other side. I'm like, I sell a really good fuzz, so just pick up one of mine and be done with it. But
Shameless self, a little
Yeah, right.
shameless self.
shameless self-promotion.
Oh, I want every fuzz pedal. Like if I can have every fuzz pedal, I want every fuzz pedal, regardless if they're all silicon or germanium, whatever. Like I want all of them because I love fuzz.
I really, I usually was a germanium fan, but once again, my buddy Brandon built a pedal for me called the Super Awesome Fun Pedal Experience, and it's a very odd enclosure. It's a long enclosure. One side's got a very cool silicon fuzz, and then the other side has a very warm vintage style delay that I just appreciate. But the cool part about it is it's also got the time knob for the delay. That's a giant knob on the side that I can turn with my foot. It
Oh,
has a
nice.
pressure sensitive expression control to control like swells and stuff, and it's all in one enclosure. And it's got this little unicorn hopping a rainbow with a bunch of stuff that I like. If you know me, you know that'd be like that's the kind of stuff I'm into. So I get that, and I love it. I actually made like my main board is pretty simple. It's a little big on the big side. Vince should know because he put it together for me. He built it and put it like made it all clean and pretty. But it has tools that I like to use, and there's a little bit of expansive, but it's pretty basic stuff. It's got like a tuner. I got a Dynacomp compressor. I like to play the clean, spanky country stuff. So when I am on a clean tone, it's nice to have that little bit of oomph. Sometimes I use it as a boost. Just depending on the time. I know how to use the tool. A wah pedal, because it's a wah pedal. Usually it's like a crybaby or I think I got the Tom Morello wah on there right now because it's just a really cool wah. It sounds great. WH1, a Digitech whammy. I've been using that since I was a kid too. I use it for the octave effects. I love octave effects. It's a linchpin, Tube screamer. Give me any tube screamer. I just like tube screamers. Doesn't matter which one. I'll take any of them. I got an 808 on there right now, but I could have a 9. I could have a 10. It doesn't matter. Tube screamer's a tube screamer. They all have
Tone
different
lock.
Yeah. They all have.
Oh God.
Yeah. Ooh, give me that sound tank. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The sound tank. Yeah. You know what I'm talking. The 7. Give me that 7 sound tank, brother.
Jesus.
But these are those are the mainstays, and then I've got the big muff. So if I just had that, I'd be fine. I do have some extra stuff on there. Like I have a Earthquaker Devices Afterneath. I really like that pedal kind of for some shimmer, or like to play like some of this rockabilly stuff. And it sounds really hopeless when you hit it with the Afterneath. A spring reverb pedal. I think it's like a Solid Gold Effects Surf Rider. And that I don't ever use that unless I'm on a backline amp that has no reverb. It's just there in case I'm on an amp that I don't need reverb. And then like a delay pedal. Pick a delay pedal. Mine's a little bit bigger, but I built with that one pedal board I was talking about. I built a mini pedal board that's just fun. It's all fun. It's got the Super Awesome Fun pedal experience on it with all the controls. A Game Changer plasma drive. I don't know if you've got to play with one of those, but definitely check out the plasma drive. It sounds like electricity, dude. A Boss SY1, one of their little synth pedals, which is amazing. It's got an tap tempo arpeggiator in it. You can just get bananas. And then I put the Earthquaker Devices Astral Destiny on there, and it's this little mini board, and I take it to jams. If I'm just going to like a buddy's house to play, or maybe sitting in with the band, that's the little board I bring. Because I'm like, what do you want me to be tonight? You want me to be You're the space Telecaster guy? Do you want me to be the Fuzz Lord? Do you want me to be the space ninja, or do you want me to be the synth player? I mean, like, just name your tone, man. It's just a bananas little board. I left it too. I was like, this is staying because this board is the most fun board I've ever made. So you don't have to have just one board, people. That's what I'm trying to tell
Oh
you.
yeah, no, I'm working on my third one now.
I'm working on my fourth. So like, it's like you don't have to have just one. Different tools for different jobs. If you want a big gigantic board, I'm kind of like, one of the philosophies and things that I always preach on this thing. I get on my soapbox, climbing up, guys. Climbing up, help, give me a hand. Like
You need to stop encouraging him.
it's different strokes for different folks. So basically, if you're happy having 1,000 million pedals, having the mothership in front of you, and that's your jam, and you're cool and happy with it, by all means do it. Now, if you want to be more practical and you're like a working guy, sometimes that big board is not practical, and that's what we're trying to tell you right now. You need to kind of, if you simplify it and kind of, it'll streamline it, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. You're just going to save yourself a lot of trouble. Every time you add a pedal, you're adding another chain of things that can go wrong that puts you out of commission. And there's nothing more embarrassing than being on stage and your shit goes down and you can't get it back up again. I use a wireless unit, and I always have a cable sitting on top of my amp. So if my thing goes down, within 7 seconds, I've got that wireless thing unplugged and the thing, I'm just right into the amp. And you know what? That's the show, guys. That's pedalboard's completely bypassed. I will bail. I will jump ship. I did it at a gig not 2 weeks ago. My pedalboard, for whatever reason, was not working. And it was probably just like a cable somewhere or something, Like,
Yep.
It ended up being one of my cables running to my amp. But I'm not going to sit there and try to figure that out. I just like, okay, well, I guess we're not using this tonight. I grabbed a tuner off of there. And luckily, I always keep 9-volt batteries in the tuner. I just slapped a spare tuner down. I'm like, I guess it's the show, guys. I really felt naked without it, but the show must go on. So different stroke. I mean, just do what makes you happy. And if, boutique, crazy custom pedals make you happy, you know what? There's worse shit you could spend your money on. Take it from someone that does this stuff every day. I buy pedals relentlessly. Some of them are crazy. Some of them are custom. Some of them are vintage. Some of them are rare, and some of them come with the box with the warranty card not even filled out. Because I actually look for that kind of stuff because I'm a nerd. All I'm saying is you just got to do you. And that's the great thing about COVID is that you're not the first person, Aaron, that we've talked to that has kind of sprung something really awesome out of COVID. That took the free time that was took those lemons and made lemonade. So
yeah, I've talked to plenty of people who have been in similar boats. Like people have asked questions or sort of said how do I'm normally pretty open to share information on all sorts of things, right? And it's not just the pedal, but it's how did you brand it, or how did you how do you try to keep it interesting, or how do you come up with ideas for new things, or how do you and it's cool. I've talked to a bunch of people that are always just, through this time, they've just always been looking for they've been looking for something to sort of get their energy, their creative juices flowing. And I don't know, it's refreshing to see people sort of coming out and just having the guts to sort of try to do something. Because to me, that's where all the cool ideas come from, is when somebody, dares to do something.
But I think one of the things that you nailed, and I think that is kind of indicative of people that do this and are successful, is I could be completely wrong, so just tell me if I'm full of shit, but you don't strike me as the kind of guy that's really doing this for anybody else's approval. This is something that's deeply personal that you wanted to see brought forth into the world. You just happen to throw one on the internet, and all of a sudden a lot of people are like, I dig that too. It's not like you were like, oh, I'm going to make these things, I'm going to sell them. It was like, you probably just said, hey, I got some free time. I'm going to do this because I don't want to go buy this thing that I can build myself, and I can make it mine, and I can make it personal.
That's literally exactly the story. It's been, it's very much rooted in, and I tell people often, I'll be like, I'm not doing this because I'm, laughing all the way to the bank or anything like that. Like far from it. I've been making them now because it's a thing that like I can do. So it's like if I have the ability to make something that somebody would love to have, and I could sort of help make something that they've got in their head a reality or whatever, to me it's more about that. Like it's more about I'll do all the groundwork and I'll source some like cool parts and I'll source something to make something original. And like I said, that's my philosophy has been, you're talking about old guys that have found the pedal that they really love and they've tried 50 different pedals and they buy and sell them, but there's one that they just always sort of gravitate towards, right? They're just like, this for whatever reason is mine. It kind of defines the character that resonates with me. And so part of my mission has been a little bit of how can I create something that's so cool that somebody looks at it. And that's like half the time I'll post some on Instagram that there's no owner, like I've just made them freewheeling. And I'll offer it up to be like, first come, first serve, whoever wants this one. And my hope is always that somebody will see it and just be like, that is the raddest thing. Like, like it's so much better than walking into a store and just buying a plain one. Like for whatever reason, something resonates with me with that particular one. And my hope is always that they'll pick it up and that they'll just make it that, make it your big muff, make it the thing that they integrate into their rig, that 10 years from now, they'll be like, I picked up this random fuzz face from this small builder guy that just for whatever reason, it just does the thing. I'd love for people to like, peek over on stages and see something on somebody's board and be like, what the hell is that? And be like, oh man, like I know a guy, right, who hooked me up with this thing that just for whatever reason, is integral to my sound. That's all I could ever ask for in anything I do.
One of the things that I'm glad, I hope people listen to this and like kind of garner from this is, I remember like, just to be perfectly honest, when me and Vince were talking, kind of our precursory chat before all of this, he kind of told me what the price was for these, and I balked at it a little bit. But now that I kind of understand, like that there's a lot more than just, you're doing a lot more than just making like a clone. You're like, there's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of love involved. There's definitely a lot of skill, a lot of experimentation, and, like innovation. So now I don't balk at it anymore. I actually totally like think that that's like more than fair.
It's
like,
it's funny though, because like people talk to me about it. Sometimes it's a question that I answer. Like I don't normally talk too much about the cost of them because it does fluctuate a little bit depending on what's in them and how much effort goes into them. But I'll normally try to tell people if they're really curious about it, where I'll be like, I could break it down for you guys. Like it might seem in some cases like a lot of money, and it is, right? Like it's definitely an investment piece. But there's a lot of cost that goes into them, right? The enclosures, the old parts,
time.
Sometimes finding these transistors, you got to buy 100 of them and maybe 2 of them are good. And like my tolerance for parts is very, very high. I measure every single part that goes into these things. I'm looking for specific values. So there's a lot of junk that, I'm not just grabbing the cap and throwing it in there. I'm measuring 15 of them to find the one that works best. And then I'm taking series of 10 of the ones that sorted out right, and then individually like trying each one because they might sound a little bit different, and then picking the right one. And like, it's all that time and effort and, sourcing out parts and stuff that like, it's the MasterChef thing, right? It's like, there's a lot of stuff that's gone into this gumbo, and not to mention the fact that like I really don't even account for my time very much. Like sometimes I'll spend I don't know how much time painting enclosures and trying to make it hit right and whatever, and that's totally a labor of love, right? That's just me doing this as a hobby that I can monetize a little bit and hopefully somebody can benefit from. And I'm the first person to say, and I'll tell people, I'll be like, I painted this 4 times until like I settled on this one, and like you let me know how you feel about it. I'll show people photos, whatever. And if for whatever reason they were like, I don't know, I'm not feeling it, I'd be the first person to be like, okay, man, like in the bin, here we go, we'll try again. Like I want it to resonate with you. Like I want you to just want to pick it off the shelf. The thing I don't want is for someone to buy one of these, plug it in once, be like, it's cool, but then like, you know, put it on a shelf and never really want to play it again, or never really gravitate towards it. It's that feeling of awesomeness where you have that pedal that you love, that you can't wait to stomp on, and it just feels so good every time. And that's the essence of what I'm trying to get when I make them.
And for me, like building boards, I get what you mean. Like there's it, like it's an expensive service for one, but like anybody can build a pedal board, but it's doing it to a certain standard. And like I can go pick up a fuzz face circuit and throw it in an enclosure and call it a day, but am I going to be able to get it to the level that, like, say you're doing it? Probably not. You've been doing it long enough. The price is going to be reflecting the cost of materials, your time, your expertise. So yeah, I mean, is spending $400, $500, $600 on a pedal always a great investment, or is it something you want to do up front? No, of course not. But like you were saying, if it's something that you're going to pick up and it's going to inspire you, and it's going to be the thing that you want to play all the time, then it's 100% worth it.
I just see it like,
and I'm the first person to talk to. Sorry, man. I'm the first person to talk to people. I talk to a lot of people for a lengthy amount of time sometimes before they pick up one of mine, because I'm really concerned more about, like, you know, I've talked to people on the phone and stuff where I'm like, what are you looking for, right? Like, you tell me what the sound is in your head that you're trying to capture, and I'm going to tell you whether that's me, whether that's like other builder friends of mine that might be able to hit that better for you, whether it's a different style of pedal. Like I personally, like, again, this isn't my job. It's a hobby. Like I personally don't care whether somebody wants one of mine. I'm more hyped up by being able to help somebody find what it is that they're looking for. And whether I'm able to do that, I mean, hell, that makes me feel really good if I am. But if I can point them in the right direction, if I can give them some advice, sometimes people have gear that I'm like, just try using what you've got this way and let me know, like, maybe you haven't thought of it, right? Maybe that'll work for you, right? Like, it's not about, yeah, you need to spend, you know, $600, $700, $800 on some boutique piece of kit. Because sometimes people think that's what where they have to go, right? And to me, sometimes it's like you're getting into investment pieces there where it's almost like art. Like, you want to spend the money because you can also like appreciate it as like an artistic piece and stuff, or you align yourself with the values of the builder, and you like supporting small business, or like, I'm very patriotic, right? Like, I love to support Canadian builders and stuff like that, right? Like, I think that's rad. Or so like, I digress a little bit, but like, yeah, I don't know, to me that's it's more about helping the player get to, you know, whatever their dream destination is.
That's pretty much what I was going to say, is like, you're not buying like a manufactured like cookie cutter piece. You're actually buying like an art piece.
Yeah, it's a custom thing for you.
One built, you know, 1-to-1, like it was labored over and loved and, you know, nitpicked, and, you know, it was like, it's like why it's the difference between, like, say, like going to Walmart and buying a quick kitchen knife, or like having like an expert blacksmith make you a kitchen knife. You know, like, it's not even gonna be the same ballpark. It's not even the same sport. It's not even the same league. It's gonna be completely better, or it's not.
And I'm the first person. I'm the first person in conversations. I'll often do like live streams and stuff sometimes while I'm building, because people kind of jump on and are cool.
Oh, yeah,
like,
people
they're
love that
interested to
stuff.
see the process. They'd love to see the process happening, but sometimes they like to ask questions. And a question I get all the time is like, hey man, like, what do you think about like the Dunlop, like, you know, mini fuzz, or the Fuzz Face reissues or whatever? And I'm the first person to be like, so I'm the first person to be like, they're rad. Like, they sound good. Like, George Trips is a very like accomplished, like, you know, pedal engineer and stuff. Like, that they sound really good. Like, if you're just after like, hey man, I want a Fuzz Face, like, I don't really care what it looks like, I just kind of wanted to do the fuzz thing, you know, go for it, right? Like, they're gonna do what you're looking for them to do. And I'm the first one to be like, make no secret about it, like, I like to think what I do sounds better, but it's like the law of diminishing returns, right? Like how much better can it be than like a mass produced product that's been vetted through I don't know how many people and designers and so on and so forth. Like they sound good. Like mine, I almost say like typically it'll have more mojo. It'll be more, it's the same way as people will look through my Instagram feed and message me and say like, I want one just like that one you built. And I'll tell them, look, I can do something similar, but it's never going to be the same. And realistically, you don't want it to be the same. You want it to be yours. You'd love to come into the room with that other pedal and kind of like debate back and forth about like which one you like better, right? Like it's kind of, you have the old Strat and the old Telly, like whose is better? They'd have the same vibe. So that's my stance on it, right? Like it's I'm not gonna blow smoke up somebody's ass and be like, I make a $2,000 pedal and it's like worth every cent because it's full of the rarest parts in the world and like it's just absolutely better than everything else. At a certain point, man, like a tube screamer is a tube screamer is a tube screamer. If you're playing in a loud band context, ain't nobody gonna know shit. Depending like whether you spent $1,000 or $50 on it.
Exactly.
And that's real talk.
And there's something, at least for me, special about knowing like I have one of something that no one else can ever get. Like I have a custom guitar being built right now. Yeah, there you go. And
yeah,
Can't get
it's
these no more. Yeah,
exactly.
and like it's being reliced and put together and everything to my specifications, and it's a complete one-off. There would never be another one like this made unless like somebody tries to do it intentionally, but this is mine. No one else has this, and there's something to that I know makes me feel good and makes me more inspired to play it.
I was going to be real smart ass, but I'm feeling.
No, go ahead. Now of all times, you choose to not say anything.
Yeah, fuck yeah, buddy. No, I totally get what you're saying. Like, and like I said, it's the magic of being, just crafted and mold over. But I will tell you right now, I worked at a music store and we sold a lot of Dunlop pedals. The Fuzz Faces, I mean, if out of all 10 of them ordered, 8 of them would have to go back. Not even kidding. Like that's like how it went down. Like, and it just wouldn't work. Something would come loose. You'd open them up. They're not exactly wired super great, from the manufacturer. I mean, it's just real loosey goosey.
So like, it's funny that surprises me, but the thing that I joke about the most about the Dunlop ones is when you open them up, there's like 500 ground wires. And it's like, it doesn't make sense to me. I always look at it and I'm like, there's no way this is how it was engineered, because like it's grounded in like 500 places 50 times over. It never made any sense to me. I was like, more wire is bad.
Yep.
Yeah, more is not more in this particular setting. No, but it's like the reissues, in my humble opinion, from the manufacturer are not great. I mean, they sound good when you can actually get one that works. But this kind of leans back to what you're saying, is these guys would go through these vintage pedals, playing one after the other. Every single one has some different kind of variance. It sounds completely different. They're just searching for the one. With a service like yours, what you could definitely influence the outcome, right? Like the natural outcome of what they're looking for. And that's
and I try to do it to the best that I can. Like I try to do it, right? Like it's hard to take. I always tell people, I'm like, look, I'm not in your head, right? Like what I hear, what my rig is when I'm testing it, right? It's one thing, but like I tend to like, and I'm not even the best player in the world, right? Like I normally say like a great player will take what I do and sort of make the magic happen that I can't almost create myself. But I like to think that I know what I'm listening for. I've been around enough guitar and guitar vernacular and stuff that when somebody's sitting there being like, I'm looking for, woody and all these descriptive words, that I can try to like get to them and be like, okay, but like, what do you mean by that? Like, do you have an example of a record or something that you're really trying to catch the essence of? Like, what rig are you using? How can I think about, what this guy is going to plug into? And how it's going to mesh with the rig or whatever. yeah, I don't know. Like it's an interesting process because I always send it off when I think it's done, and I'll be like, you know, hey man, like done, and it's coming to you, and it's always that like nervous moment where the box is there, and I'll follow the
Yep.
tracking, and I'll be like, okay, it was delivered. Like, how long is it going to be till I get a message that's either like, you know, holy shit, this is amazing, or like,
Dude, what the fuck?
you know,
Yeah.
hey bud, like I
Yeah.
hate to tell you, but like, what is this crap that I bought?
No,
But I
I've
get
done
that.
that. I've done that. I built a jazz master-esque guitar for a guy once. He contracted me to build him this very epic jazz master, which I was good. I mean, I did like a Lutheran apprenticeship. I did all this other stuff. You know, I know how to build guitars well, but I was nervous about this one because this is definitely the level of what I wanted to give this guy was above what I normally would do. You know, the finish between the finish work, you know, so stuff. And I was like, I was super nervous when I sent it to him, dude. Just like waiting. I'm like, is he gonna hate this thing? Because you know, you kind of get into that doubt, that circle of
Yeah.
anxiety and doubt.
Every board I build is the same way.
Yeah, you're just like, fuck, is he gonna hate this? I'm a piece of shit.
Yep.
You know, you know, I get that. I totally get that. The anxiety that comes with like, are they gonna like it?
It's funny though because like I think you almost need that a little bit though. Like you almost need a little bit of imposter syndrome almost where you feel like like am I really like the right person to like do this for a guy or girl?
Keeps you humble.
It keeps you like really in the process, right? Like I've always told myself if I ever get to the point where I say like ho hum, like transistors measure in the same old ranges that I normally pick from, like in it goes and whatever else, and I feel like I need to stop doing it at that point because I've sort of lost. It's part of what people are trying to get, right? Is that it's like care and attention and all this like time has gone into something. I normally finish them for people and I tell them like it's done. Here's some photos, like, you know, save the pictures and think about, you know, the day that it's going to show up on your door, like you're waiting for Christmas or whatever. But like, I'll normally hang on to them for a week. Because like every day I'm then like plugging it in and being like, okay, does it still feel like it's got the vibe that I want it to have that it had yesterday? And then like, you know, at a certain point in time, I'm going to be like, okay, like it's not changing. I don't feel like I have to tweak it any further. Like
Yep.
I'm comfortable with it now and I'll send it off. It's, I don't know, it's that level of detail that matters to me. It's something that like when I would buy something, especially something custom like that, I would sure hope that somebody put all the like love and care and attention into something like that I was picking up, right? It seems like customer service 101, I guess, but like it's really like a code you have to live by when you're making something like this, especially when you're trying to really personalize it.
But once it starts to become sort of mass manufactured on your end, that's when you kind of have to look back and it's like, all right, should I really continue doing this? Or like you're saying, am I the right person to be doing this now?
And like my answer to that is because the market is flooded with how many different people that do kind of the same thing. And when I started doing this, I basically told myself where I was like, look, there's guys out there that make authentic type replica fuzz faces, right? A Dustin Francis type guy. There's people out there that make like, you know, kind of funky, cool, like tone bender enclosure face, like fuzz circuits. There's the Dunlops that make kind of the low end. And I was sitting there being like, what's my market? Like, where's my niche? Right. And I told myself from the beginning that I'm like, I'm not concerned with like authentic vintage replicas. And if somebody messaged me asking for that, I normally send them over to the other guy. Right. I'm like, honestly, if you really want like period correct screws and stuff, this is the guy you want to talk to. Like he obsesses harder than I do over those things. And he's going to put the love and attention into it that you want. As opposed to, I'm like, if you really want, like, if you've been watching The Mandalorian and you want something that looks like Boba Fett's armor, right? like I'm the guy, like I will obsess over the photo and be like, how can I kind of try to capture that essence in a way that's not cheesy?
This is the way.
in the product for you. Yeah, like exactly, right? And so to me, that's kind of been my the same way that I don't often make ones that are clean, right? I'm like sometimes I do if somebody really asks for it, but to a certain extent, I'm like the wear is kind of my thing, right? And so like it almost seems off brand to just like make a clean one.
Well, I mean, you're doing essentially vintage style fuzz faces. I mean, and aesthetically, they should be on point. I mean, and if you want something that's completely clean, you go to somebody else or just buy one that's on the market now.
Yeah.
So I guess one last question on my end. I know we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you have any intention of kind of branching out and working on other fuzz circuits, or is it just like you've decided like this is it, you're staying with the fuzz face?
I've like I'll give him a shout out. Like I talk a lot. There's a guy on Instagram, Zollinger Effects out of Colorado.
I'm waiting on a tone
14er?
bender from him.
Okay. He's been the most amazing dude. Like we've basically become best friends over this whole process. He's been talking to me since the very beginning when I was like, why are you even talking to me? Like, and like we recently traded because he was one of those guys that was like, oh man, you have to like get into tone benders, like start watching all this stuff. He's like, I'm gonna like give you the bug. And we recently sort of swapped parts where we were like, okay, like I'll send you some stuff and you send me some stuff, and we effectively sent each other like kits. And so he sent me like this amazing package of like this like hand wired tone bender PCB that he put all the parts in, and then he left all the transistors out, and he sent me like a massive pack of like a different variety of trannies. And he's like, here man, like this is enough to get you started, like just start tinkering and try to find something that you dig. I haven't gotten to it yet because I've been so busy trying to like catch up making orders for people, but like I feel eventually in my spare time I'm gonna start playing around with that, and then like I feel like one thing normally leads to another.
Yep. It's gonna happen eventually.
But I've always told myself that I won't do it unless I feel like I can do it to the level that I do the fuzz face, right? So like how do I make it my own? I've considered putting the tone bender in the fuzz face shell. I've considered like
We've had
I don't
some
know,
ideas along those lines too.
yeah, like there's ideas there, and I want it to be just as rad, right? Like I don't want to just be like, hey, I followed the schematic and I put together pieces. Like I've done I don't know how much research and talking to other builders and players and forum researchers and like all this stuff to try to really know the ins and outs of like the fuzz face circuit, and tweaking this does this, and like, you know, what's not standard that might be beneficial in terms of values, and how do you really get them to sound right and stuff like that. And I've tweaked that to kind of find my own sound, right? And that I know I have certain things that I'm looking for. I would want to be doing the exact same thing with the tone bender, because it's kind of like all of what we've talked about, right? I would want to be putting like all my love and attention into it to make it so that it really is like a character fuzz pedal, right? That somebody could like make their own, and it isn't just, you know, and I guess it's not a kit. Anybody can follow a schematic and put something together. It's about really sort of finding what you dig. And I have some people that like, I have some guys that have like 3 or 4 of the pedals that I build, because for whatever reason they've gotten one and they've said, this is amazing. Maybe it was germanium. I want to try silicon. And so they've tried silicon, and then they've just been like, I don't know what it is, but like we must have like a similar thing that we're looking for or whatever, because like the way that you build them resonates with me. Like everyone I plug in, it just sort of hits it the right way. And I'm the first person to be like, it might not happen, right? Like, and if it doesn't, that's totally cool, right? Like you might, I'm the first person to say like, I'll give you a list of 5 or 6 other builders that have been amazing to me that make great stuff that you might want to try some of their stuff too. But yes, like I said, it's you find this connection where people are like, oh, you get what I'm looking for, and like you know how to tune it the way that I want to hear it. And yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
So maybe long answer.
I'm just like going, I'm just it's in shock and awe of your Instagram. So Everybody out there listening there in podcast land, go check out at Dominion Fuzz on Instagram and prepare to have your teeny weeny little minds blown because it's a whole lot of crazy awesomeness. Especially if you're into Fuzz Faces, definitely go over there. It's the proverbial cream dream. For real. If you like Fuzz Face, you just walked into Mecca, son. Like, but we just want to thank you, Aaron, for joining us on the Pedalboard podcast. We want to have a thank to our lovely sponsors, SE Electronics, for their gracious giving us of microphones. Bullet Cables for hooking us up with cables. We would like to also thank Vince. Help me out anytime, buddy.
Get off my case.
Oh yes, get off my
supplying the
case.
pedal boards.
Yes, they are amazing. Am I forgetting anybody?
I guess Shock Rock.
Oh, Shock Rock Effects. Also, thank you for sponsoring us. Vagabond Audio, Mr. Vince DeJoya next to me. Thank you so much. And Aaron, you gotta hit him up on the Instagram. We're gonna hit you one more time. That's at Dominion Fuzz. Get your personalized, customized, victimized, I don't know, somethingized Fuzz Face. I mean, you could have him make a Captain America shield. You could have him make an Alpha Flight shield if you're a real big nerd, and I am. So just get your groove on. Just want to thank everybody for listening. Like and subscribe. Check out the videos and, try not to lick a bag of suck.